Walaupun bermula secara kecil-kecilan dengan memanfaatkan resepi daripada saudara mara, namun produk sos cili jenama Dini kini mula mendapat perhatian pengguna dari seluruh negara. Produk keluaran tropical food industry itu diusahakan Nurhayati Ahmad, 58 tahun, di sebuah bengkel dekat Lubuk Beriam, Tasik Gelugur, Pulau Pinang, hasil bimbingan Jabatan Pertanian dan Lembaga Pemasaran Pertanian Persekutuan Fama.
Menurut Nurhayati, pihaknya menggunakan kaedah konvensional ketika mula memasarkan produk sos pada 2005 dengan menghantarnya ke kedai berhampiran selain menyertai ekspo anjuran agensi tertentu. Bagaimanapun, selari dengan perkembangan teknologi, Nurhayati yang dibantu anaknya Farzana Syaza 23 tahun kini memanfaatkan platform digital bagi mempromosi produk dihasilkan, termasuk mewarnai video cara masakan menggunakan paste.
Okey, mula-mula saya cuma hantar dekat kedai-kedai je, kedai-kedai tepi-tepi rumah. Kemudian produk saya boleh diterima. Saya pun tambahkan produk. Saya start jual sampai ke Baling, ke Alostar. Saya dah masuk Perak. Kemudian ada juga lah sampai dekat KL lah. Kalau kita buat kita keluar buat marketing, dapatlah order sampai ke Negeri Sembilan, ke Johor semua lah. Kebetulan anak saya baru keluar daripada belajar politeknik kan. Selepas politeknik dia pun ambil kos bisnes. Start tu lah dia buat online marketing. Dalam masa COVID tu sangat bagus lah dia punya pasaran dia.
Selain sos cili, produk jenama Dini lain adalah sos lada hitam, kicap char kuih tiaw, pis tom yam, pis ayam goreng berempah, pis asam pedas serta kuah rojak. Produk berkenaan makin mendapat sambutan hingga ke Sabah dan Sarawak, menyebabkan Nurhayati merancang untuk membuka kilang bagi meningkatkan pengeluaran.
Selepas guna media sosial, dia sebab orang perseorangan kan yang order, tak ada lah beli banyak-banyak macam tu, tapi dia beli satu, tapi dah lepas ke Sabah, Sarawak pun ada, dan merata lah seluruh Malaysia. Kita tak payah nak pergi jumpa customer macam kita. Dan sampai sekarang masih lagi duk hantar sampai ke Johor mana kan. Sekali production dalam 200 kilo. Ya. Untuk satu produk, tapi tengok kepada produk lah. Saya memang planning nak buka kilang yang besar, tapi bukan dengan anak saya lah, sebab saya pun dah berumur, dah 58 kan, jadi anak yang nak majukan tu.
Ujar Nurhayati, dia bercadang bekerjasama dengan Lembaga Kemajuan Wilayah Pulau Pinang Perda bagi membuka kilang yang mempunyai sijil mesti bahagian keselamatan dan kualiti makanan supaya dapat memenuhi permintaan produk jenama Dini pada masa akan datang. Pihaknya juga akan mengukuhkan segmen pemasaran dalam talian bagi memastikan permintaan terhadap produk kekal konsisten.
World Cities Day 2023 memfokuskan pada tema Financing Sustainable Urban Future for All untuk meneroka kunci pelaburan yang transformatif dalam pembangunan bandar serta mencapai desentralisasi fiskal yang mencukupi. Bersama editor kanan AWANI, Zulfitri Yusof terbang jauh kira-kira 8,272 km jarak dari Malaysia sehingga tiba di Istanbul, Turki untuk membawa perinciannya.
Terima kasih rakan setugas di studio, dan hari ini merupakan Hari Bandar Sedunia ataupun World Cities Day, di mana tahun ini ianya disambut di Üsküdar di Istanbul, Turki, dan saya kini bertuah kerana dapat bersama dengan sebahagian besar daripada penyertaan dari seluruh dunia bersempena dengan World Cities Day ini. Dan terima kasih kepada Turkish Airlines yang bersedia berkolaborasi bersama kami untuk memungkinkan liputan ini dibawakan kepada anda. Dan pastinya perkara ini kita ingin fahami dan juga lihat daripada pelbagai perspektif, di mana daripada segi penganjurannya, bagaimanakah siapa yang terlibat, dan juga apakah tema yang diangkat dalam World Cities Day untuk tahun ini. Saya bersama dengan Khaleeda Cina, merupakan Ketua Komunikasi UN Habitat. Thank you, Katrina, for being with us for the AWANI today. Happy World Cities Day, and we are here again in Üsküdar, Istanbul. Perhaps you can give the overview of the World Cities Day in conjunction the whole month of campaign of Urban October. What's the special thing that we can gain from the World Cities Day this year?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here, and happy World Cities Day to you as well. So this year we are celebrating World Cities Day in the municipality of Üsküdar in Istanbul, Turkey. It's one of the ancient municipalities, and we are really happy that they are the co-organizers of this World Cities Day. World Cities Day usually ends our Urban October campaign. Urban October campaign is 31 days to promote sustainable urban development. We start with World Habitat Day on the first Monday of October and end at the end of October. This year, the whole month we celebrated and we promoted sustainable urban development, and we focused on the topic of financing sustainable urban development. It is a very important topic because we can talk about sustainable development, but financing is a fuel that helps run it.
Without financing and investing, there's nothing that can happen. Yeah,
Yes, so that's why we feel it is very important to talk about this topic, especially now with the economic downturn, with a lot of conflicts happening, climate disasters that claim more and more lives and affect more and more people and communities. We feel it is really important to address the issue of financing, and especially now because in July we had a high-level political forum in New York, and we all realized that we are behind in meeting sustainable development goals and our targets for the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. It is really important to do something. One of the ways how we can accelerate development is by igniting our cities and using the power of our cities as engines of economic development. Cities are really important players. They need to have a seat at the table. They also have the key to economic prosperity. So we need to somehow unlock their potential. And that is essentially the purpose of our Urban October and especially World Cities Day. We really want to see how we can unlock transformative financing to help cities grow and realize their potential.
Who will be here at Üsküdar for the World Cities Day, because UN Habitat will connecting the dot between the various stakeholders, especially in this kind of topic of the sustainable financing. Who will be here today?
Yes, you are very right in saying that we are connecting the dots. We are, so to say, the conveners. So what we like to do is we like to bring together different stakeholders. It means government, local governments, cities and local authorities, also businesses, academia, the civil society. We made our effort to bring here also private sector and investors. One day before the World Cities Day, we had a high-level meeting on financing where we brought together really the brightest mind in finance to talk about recommendations or their suggestions, what can be done to finance sustainable urban development and to unlock this sustainable urban development and help cities. So we are really happy that this is happening, but I also would like to say that this year we really have a very high representation at World Cities Day. We have the patron of World Cities Day is Her Excellency Amina Erdogan, the First Lady of Turkey, and she is a champion of sustainable urban development, of zero waste initiatives and circular economy. So she has really engaged a lot of people, and we have 13 First Ladies from all over the world coming here to support the cause of zero waste and sustainable urban development.
Perhaps we can understand how the collaboration between the UN Habitat and the government of Turkey itself, because there's something we can see how huge the collaboration here. Perhaps you can mention about that.
Well, I would say that we are trying to develop relationships with different countries, and we are open to collaboration with all member states who are interested in supporting the cause of sustainable urban development, in supporting cities and human settlements. So Turkey has been really very open to that collaboration, has been really very generous in supporting UN Habitat in particular. So, for example, last year we celebrated World Habitat Day in one of the municipalities in Turkey, in Balıkesir in Turkey. So it was really where we started developing even deeper relationship with them. So this year we are celebrating here in the municipality of Üsküdar in Istanbul. Also, UN Habitat is one of the secretariats of the Zero Waste initiatives, and also the International Zero Waste Day that was proposed by the resolution of the General Assembly, and it is celebrated at the end of March. So that way Turkey is really showing that they really want to champion this, they want to promote sustainable urban development, and they want to exchange, they also want to bring knowledge from all the other parts of the world and share the knowledge that they have, because they have done quite a lot in developing their cities and human settlements. So they also want to showcase some of the examples of their work, but at the same time also learn from others and adopt some of the innovative methodologies or approaches to urban planning and urban development.
Katrina, how do we define the financing sustainable development? Because in the shifting of thinking and understanding the new way of investing and then collaborate with the local government, for instance, how do we find there's a shifting of trend for the investor to aware about the sustainable development, especially in the urban area?
Yes, I think it's, it's financing is of course a very difficult and complicated.
It's always about profit, yeah.
Yeah, they're always about profit. But what our executive director always keeps saying, that she is really, her focus is to develop people partnerships that are public-private people partnerships. So it's meaning bringing the public sector, the private sector. Public sector knows the need, knows what needs to be done. The private sector has the resources, the means, the methodologies, but it's not after profit. We really need to center it on people to make sure that people benefit from this work, and it is also scalable. So that's the riddle that we are trying to solve. Really find, and I think that a lot of frameworks, a lot of methodologies are there. It is really trying to find a way how to bring financing from the national levels, international levels, because there is a lot of international aid, a lot of development financing, a lot of national plans and budgets are adopted. But it all needs to come to the local level so that people in communities and municipalities can benefit. Sometimes it's very difficult. First of all, it's the knowledge, what are the tools, what are the methodologies.
The whole concept, yeah.
Yeah, and the whole concept. But also, at the same time, they also need to know how to present the work that they want to do in a way that that appeals to the businesses, appeals to the investors. So it's like developing skills for them as well to be able to see how they can attract the financing, because very often these are the skills that are lacking. So this is what we are trying to do, and the work that UN Habitat is doing is really trying to find a way how we can, on the one hand, talk to the financiers, investors, but at the same time bring the municipalities and the governments and show them how they need to adapt. So it's really bridging the gap and really connecting the dots.
And how UN Habitat being the facilitator, connecting the dot and then bridging the gap?
Well, that's what we are trying to do by, first of all, bringing these people, using the forums like we have the World Habitat Day, the World Cities Day. Of course, we also have the biggest forum that we are organizing is World Urban Forum that is happening next year in November in Cairo. So we are trying to bring all these different stakeholders together so that they can start the discussion. They at least learn from each other. And then, for example, here at the round tables that we are going to have at the World Cities Day, we will talk about some examples, showcasing some examples, what has been done and what can be replicated, what can be learned by the private sector, what can be learned by municipalities. We aim, that's our aim this month, because we focused, during the whole month, we focused on sustainable urban development. What we want to do at the end, we want to come up with 3 specific recommendations that can be shared and adopted or put forward, what can be done to really connect the dots, bring together the public sector, the private sector, and connect it to the people in communities.
Katrina, after all, how we adopt the zero waste solution and we find the best practice to make this as a new goal for the whole world. Understand of the circular economy, and then how do we treat the zero waste as a good initiative, and it can be profitable as well. How do we can understand about this, and how the municipal or cities adopt about this?
Yes, I think that Turkey is really a good example to talk about the zero waste, because that is a cause that has been championed by the First Lady. Also, there is a Zero Waste Foundation that was set up here, and they've really connected with a lot of countries trying to promote this concept of really reducing waste and really having zero waste, where we recycle and repurpose things that we use, because our economy is really dependent so much on this extra things we consume, that we buy things, we throw them away, and so much is really wasted. So we really need to think how we can, even in the fashion industry, you know, we take the fashion, we wear things and then we get rid of them very quickly. How we can use the circular economy concept and create some things from waste. And there are already examples. So there are some fashion designers, or for example, there are companies that are doing like bags from recycled leather, or from recycled leaves, or recycled plastic. So this really needs to be mainstreamed, and we need to show how things can be done with, without waste. Even waste that we produce, we can then use it and create something else out of it. And I think even I find it really amazing, because sometimes even you have artists who are creating art out of waste. And one of the examples that we had a couple of years ago when we started working with Turkey and discussing zero waste initiatives, they showed us different artists here in Turkey who are using waste to create art.
Katrina, perhaps for my final question, how can this kind of discussion can be digested by the mass people, the main people down there? Because we don't want this kind of event being exclusive for a certain group of people. How you can empower the people to have this kind of understanding and can participate as well?
Thank you very much. Well, I think it's a very good question, because this is something that we are also constantly thinking as UN Habitat. Very often we do realize we are cognizant of them. We are talking about these things. We are talking to people who know, and it might be very difficult for others who are not so exposed to these topics to understand what even we are talking about. So one of the things we are trying to do in our communication is really to explain some of these concepts. But I understand that sometimes
sometimes certain jargons quite alien sound to them.
Yes, it is alien. So what I am actually trying to do, one of the things that I am personally interested in doing, even in Kenya, where UN Habitat is headquartered, is really working with the journalists in the media and asking them, help us, we have this SDGs, we have the sustainable urban development, we have these different concepts, help us to really bring them down to explain them to your readers, to your public that normally reads you or watches you, how we can do it in a language that is understandable. How can we create materials that are understandable so that they would know what are we talking about when we are talking about zero waste, or when we are talking about sustainable urban development? What does it mean, urban planning? I was even suggesting that we have like a dictionary of 10 different terms that we can use and then explain it to the general public so that it becomes understandable. Because when we talk about urban planning, also very often a lot of these terms are not understandable, and even for the people who work in this sector, sometimes they also don't understand what it actually means.
Thank you, Katrina, for always involved us Astro AWANI being part of the strategic partner for UN Habitat. Thank you, Katrina. Itu kita temu saya bersama dengan Katrina, Ketua Komunikasi untuk UN Habitat, dan pastinya ini ada banyak cabang dan juga perkara yang perlu kita lihat dengan lebih meluas. Kalau dalam bisnes, sudah pasti kita melihat kepada bagaimanakah sejenis pelaburan ataupun pendanaan itu melihat kepada pembangunan lestari itu secara keseluruhan. Sekian saja laporan saya dan juga temu bual saya. Kami bawakan dari Üsküdar, Istanbul. Terima kasih kepada Turkish Airlines yang berkolaborasi bersama Astro AWANI untuk membawakan liputan ini kepada anda. Kita terus saja bersama dengan rakan setugas di Bukit Jalil.
Baik, itu adalah perkongsian daripada Zulfitri dari Istanbul, Turkiye. Kita akan beristirahat seketika dan kita akan kembali selepas ini bersama rakan setugas Nabilah Khaleeda.
Saya ingin bebaskan rambut saya. Ya, lakukannya. Walau apa pun anda lakukan, jangan risau. Sunset baharu dengan vitamin C, minyak argan dan elastin dalam Active Infusion untuk rambut lembut mengurai dengan haruman berpanjangan. Bebaskan rambut cantik anda dengan Sunset baharu.
Macam betul je kan? Cerita sebenarnya, lepas pakai helmet, kulit kepala berpeluh dan berminyak. Kalau tak dijaga, rambut boleh gugur. Dove Micellar Baharu kini mengandungi vitamin biotin untuk rambut 10 kali lebih kuat.
Doktor di Gaza melakukan pembedahan tanpa ubat penahan sakit kerana bekalan yang semakin kritikal.
Of all the cases that I've seen have been children. A lot of them have been like this. They've lost one or two parents.
Supaya ada suara tegas pertahankan hak rakyat Palestin. Rakyat bangkit. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Baik, saya kini bersiaran di Dewan Restoran atau di Space yang bertempat di The Link KL, dan kita akan berbincang lanjut berkenaan dengan MDX atau di MDX 2023, dan kita akan bersama dengan CEO MDX sendiri iaitu Teknologis Mahathir Aziz yang bersama dengan saya ketika ini. Apa khabar?
Khabar baik.
Alright, kita nak bincang lanjut tentang ekonomi digital di Malaysia. Kita tahu kalau tahun lepas saja kita ada 7.5 bilion ringgit pelaburan yang dibawakan ke dalam negara. Kalau untuk separuh tahun saja kita lebih daripada itu, iaitu 20 lebih bilion. Jadi mungkin bagaimana melihat perkembangan ekonomi digital pelaburan di negara ini kalau kita nak memasuki tahun 2024?
Pencapaian kita dari segi pelaburan digital sebenarnya tahun ini, walaupun target yang kita ada adalah lebih kurang 20 bilion di dalam MDEX sahaja, kita setakat bulan 8 tahun ini kita telah jauh melebihi dan menjangkau sasaran yang kita telah letakkan. Lebih kurang 37 bilion ringgit yang kita telah capai setakat ini dari segi pelaburan digital. Jadi berdasarkan data yang kita ada dan juga keadaan ekonomi sekeliling dan serantau, kita rasa potensi untuk lebih lagi pelaburan ke dalam Malaysia yang berbentuk digital adalah amat tinggi. Ini adalah bersandarkan rata-ratanya kita ada data center investment yang kita nampak besar, dan juga global business services ataupun business process outsourcing. Selebih daripada itu ada dalam sektor-sektor atau subsektor di dalam teknologi seperti fintech, agritech dan sebagainya yang masih dan akan naik lagi berdasarkan kepada tumpuan kerajaan dan juga fokus kerajaan madani, di mana ekonomi madani, dokumen seperti NIMP dan juga NETR akan membolehkan lebih banyak pelaburan yang berdasarkan digital.
Dan untuk menggalakkan lagi pelaburan dari bukan saja di peringkat serantau tapi global dan untuk mengembangkan lagi ekosistem digital ini, MDEC akan anjurkan MDX atau Malaysia Digital Expo 2023. Jadi apa yang boleh dikongsikan lagi tentang MDX 2023 ini dan bagaimana dengan sasaran?
Okay. MDX ataupun Malaysia Digital Expo 2023 adalah lebih dari hanya setakat showcase ataupun pertunjukan untuk menarik pelabur baru sahaja. Malah ianya untuk menunjukkan juga kebolehan dan juga pencapaian ekosistem digital di Malaysia sepanjang yang kita telah bina dan juga develop. Jadi kalau kita tengok dari segi penyertaan syarikat dari sektor swasta dan juga agensi kerajaan dan kerajaan dari sektor publik. Jadi ia membolehkan Malaysia untuk memberi penunjuk dan juga showcase kebolehan dari segi bakat yang kita ada ataupun human resource dan talent, dan juga syarikat-syarikat yang Malaysia ada, dan juga produk dan solusi yang telah Malaysia cipta. Sama ada syarikat itu adalah Malaysian born yang spesifik 100% Malaysian, ataupun syarikat yang daripada luar yang telah menggunakan Malaysia sebagai tempat untuk mengembangkan perniagaan mereka di rantau ASEAN dan juga Asia Pasifik. Jadi ini adalah pengumpulan semua kebolehan yang ada di dalam Malaysia dan juga rantau ASEAN, di mana kita boleh tunjukkan potensi untuk pelabur-pelabur baru dan juga untuk syarikat-syarikat lain untuk melihat kebolehan Malaysia bukan sahaja dari segi membolehkan dia lebih kompetitif, tetapi sebagai tempat yang kita panggil launchpad untuk bisnes in this region.
Dan Malaysia Digital Expo ni telah berlangsung akan berlangsung selama 6 minggu dan acara kemuncaknya akan datang pada bulan November, dan mungkin antara yang akan diadakan ialah sharing session ataupun orang kata ucap tama lah. Dan siapakah antara speakernya kalau boleh dikongsikan? Kita yang paling besarnya kita ada Zcash, di mana dia adalah antara orang yang terpenting di dalam OpenAI dan juga di belakang sistem yang kita panggil ChatGPT yang popular known as that. Tetapi lebih daripada itu, dalam pada Malaysia mula melihat ke arah penggunaan generative artificial intelligence, kita perlu lebih banyak lagi speaker yang boleh berbincang ataupun memberi penerangan dan berkongsi idea dalam aspek yang AI dan juga yang lebih daripada AI. Sebab kalau kita tengok balik kepada pelaburan tadi, pelaburan data center adalah the conversation ataupun naratif yang kita kena ada adalah lebih daripada setakat pelaburan untuk data center itu. Kerana pelaburan itu walaupun besar, tetapi jumlah pekerjaan yang kita cipta daripada pelaburan itu adalah kecil. Tetapi kita ada juga multiplier effect yang kita panggil, yang kita harap dapat naratif itu dapat dikeluarkan dan ceritanya dapat dihebahkan kepada orang ramai di Malaysia. Jadi sebab bila kerajaan, agensi kerajaan membawa pelaburan baru, ianya harus membawa manfaat kepada rakyat Malaysia dan juga di tempat mana yang pelaburan itu dibuat. Jadi yang itu kita harap dari segi speaker-speaker yang akan datang, yang akan membuka idea baru. Jadi bila kita tengok pelaburan dari segi data center ataupun global business services dan apa-apa digital pelaburan digital, dia lebih kepada mencipta pekerjaan-pekerjaan baru dan juga peluang untuk berniaga kepada perniagaan kita. Okey, jadi untuk orang luar sana yang mungkin nak jadi peserta, macam mana mereka nak join expo ini, apa cara-caranya? Okey, kita ada website MDEC dari segi social media dan juga platform-platform yang kita ada dan hebahan yang kita ada dan juga link untuk mereka boleh datang, ambil tahu, tanya dan juga chat dengan kita. Di samping itu kita ada rakan-rakan kongsi ataupun partners yang akan melibatkan diri, sama ada dari bentuk sponsorship ataupun dari segi exhibition dan sebagainya, yang mana mereka juga boleh menjadi salah satu daripada tempat untuk peniaga di luar sana, MSME ataupun
pelajar dan juga orang ramai amnya untuk boleh mendapat lebih informasi mengenai MDX. Di samping itu, kita juga mengadakan hebahan awam di tempat-tempat awam dari segi banting, banner dan juga interview seperti ini untuk membolehkan kita memberitahu lebih ramai lagi untuk hadir dan menyertai Malaysia Digital Expo 2023.
Baik, saya ucapkan all the best untuk MDEX dan juga Expo MDX 2023, dan itulah teknologi Mahathir Aziz, CEO MDEX sendiri, yang boleh dikongsikan untuk ketika ini. Semuanya akan kami rangkumkan dalam semua platform digital Astro AWANI.
Asia tumpuan utama dunia. Dengan ekonomi yang semakin rancak, pembangunan lestari dan tenaga boleh diperbaharui, apakah pula impak kecerdasan buatan AI dalam perkembangan teknologi dan masa depan pekerjaan? Kami mendalami setiap berita dan cerita. Saksikan diskusi, dialog dan laporan khas di Agenda AWANI Asia bersama koresponden khas kami setiap Sabtu 9 malam di semua platform Astro AWANI.
Di sini, tiada keputusan boleh diramal. Fulham bersedia untuk menekan pelawat mereka. Magpies mampu mengejutkan The Gunners. London Derby makin hangat dengan kembalinya Pochettino. Pertembungan epik yang dinanti-nantikan. Premier League secara langsung dalam 4K HDR hanya di Astro.
Thanks for joining us. My name is Ibrahim, Sani. We continue to talk about some of the new developments that is currently happening in the country and around the world. Today, we shall talk about the green economy and perhaps even creating green jobs. Very recently, the Economic Minister, Rafizi Ramli, was talking about 10 to 20 catalytic new industries that is going to be birthed out of the two big master plans that has been introduced, the new Industrial Master Plan 2030, as well as the new energy transition roadmap that plans to create new industries, new jobs, new sectors, new foreign direct investments that is going to be coming in to generate this kind of growth, which is definitely needed as we move away from hydrocarbon and, of course, try to rethink about carbon energy. Joining me in the studio is a good friend of the show, the Heriot Watt University Malaysia's Provost as well as CEO, Professor Mushtaq Alatabi. Prof. Mushtaq, I think let's move away from the sloganism, the NIMP 2030 or the NETR, many more. Where do you see the real change is going to come in? Is it these swanky new master plans, or is there some weight that can be lent from this particular master plans and energy transition roadmaps?
Well, first of all, we have to recognize the importance of having a plan. And I think Malaysia have been really recognized worldwide for that ability to come up with very good blueprints, roadmaps, and plans. And I really mean it. You know, I speak to diplomats from other countries who told me that they go to our websites and download these things because they are, you know, quite holistic and quite very well thought through. Now, the challenge remains in the implementation, and I think that is something that we need to find our ways through. How are we going to implement? How are we going to bring these things to life? And also, how can we communicate these so the plans so that they remain able to guide us through as you know, things change and priorities and the environment changes and so on.
One would like to argue that Malaysia has too much plans and little execution or poor execution. Do you share that kind of belief?
Well, I think the implementation have been an issue. It's not easy to implement a plan, and I think this is something that I believe the country needs to improve on. But I think this should not be an excuse not to having a plan. I think
okay, see, that's what people are trying to get at, right?
Yes.
Oh, we have 10 plans, let's not have another one. That shouldn't be the thinking.
I don't think so, because look at what's happening now. Geopolitics are changing. Demographics are changing. AI technology is changing. Absolutely. And sustainability becoming really, really, really important. So I think the plans that we had in the past, in my view, are not fit for purpose. So it's important to have a new plan, but I think also it's important to have a concise plan, a plan you could wrap your head around it. For example, when I was looking at the plan with the 4 missions and I think 21 enablers and I don't know how many action plans, I was like thinking, what do we really need? I think what we need is productivity. I think that's really at the core of everything, so that we could pay better, so that we can improve the economy. Now, one good way to do productivity now is to focus on both sustainability and also the new technology, the AI and so on, because these are areas that almost every country is trying to find their way. So this is quite a nascent, quite a new area that Malaysia has the potential to be a leader at rather than a follower. So I think framing things around that could be probably a helpful way in summary, so that people can almost remember the plan rather than it's so large and so wide that by the time you finish reading, you forget the first part of it.
Let's talk then about the impact of these plans. Assuming the execution can be done well, assuming that many of the objectives are met, are you that optimistic in this whole notion of 10 to 20 catalytic new industries or 500 new startups by 2024, another 500 by 2025. These are the slogans that the government is trying to portray. Get this done, we'll offer you all the assistance that you need. The plan is there, the people needs to be gotten, and we'll help you get the people. Are there any optimism in this kind of speeches? Do you feel that new changes are in the air for Malaysia?
Well, I'm an optimistic person by nature, and as an educator, I think it's also a duty for me, a responsibility to be optimistic. So I think there are many things that are going our way in Malaysia. But again, we need to get our act right. I think as an educator, I believe education, skills and talent will be either the maker or breaker of the achievement of these goals and the ability to implement.
But Prof. Mushtaq, you fit into one of the triple helix or quadruple helix right now, which is academia. When we talk about this new energy transition roadmap, new industrial master plan, we're looking at high R&D requirements. We're looking at high training of talents requirement. Just take a look into the roadmap of an ETR. Energy efficiency, renewables energy, hydrogen, bioenergy, green mobility, carbon capture, just to name a few. There's many more in between. Do you think academia can catch up to fill this kind of requirements, not just in the talent development, i.e. the undergrads, but of course in the postgraduate development, the R&D, and how to monetize that? You're very familiar with the UK model, you're very familiar with the US model. They can monetize this. Many of the lecturers there are entrepreneurs, vice versa. They go back and forth between these two industries. Can Malaysia do that, i.e. monetize this or fit for purpose for the technology instead of this mad scientist situation where you create a fantastic research but zero adaptability on market, you can't really commercialize it?
So the short answer is yes. But I think we need to go back to basics. So for example, we talk about green economy and green jobs, and immediately people think of high-tech stuff, STEM and so on.
But that's what the Prime Minister was talking about, high growth, high value.
Which is true. As an engineer, I also, I love that. But let's go back to basics. So let me give you an example. Before we can go net zero, we need to be able to account for carbon. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Fantastic. So let's pick an example. I came to the studio, I drove today. The carbon that I burnt, is it on Astro? Is it on me personally? Is it on my university? Where would that carbon lie? I think this is a very important question, because if you were to calculate the carbon footprint for Astro and then you count only your lights and cameras and whatever, then my university counts only the thing that happens within its
boundaries.
So that movement, who is going to be responsible for? So I think the first thing we need is to educate accountants, engineers, and architects to be able to be carbon literate. So the notion of carbon literacy is such an important thing that actually Harriet Watt is leading on globally. So this is something is actually simple, yet is very difficult to deliver. Now look at Malaysia being a global center for shared services, accountancy and audits and other things. Now, for us to be able to build accountants, let's start with that, who are carbon literate and able to account for carbon. That in itself could be something that will make and put the country in such a special space within the region and maybe within the world. So this is one thing. Second thing, we talk about R&D, bringing it to reality and so on. There is a huge opportunity that Malaysia has. You know, we are one of the few countries that we have multiple foreign universities in. Currently, in my view, the most of the foreign universities, more than 10 we have here, Australia and UK and so on, we are focused on education, which is extremely important. I think, imagine if the country used us as foreign universities to connect with our
home countries, home campuses.
Absolutely, and use this as a bridge to bring the culture and also access to the high value research that's being done there. I believe that this is doable because the country invested so much in bringing all these foreign universities in. And also the country can work with our great local, public and private universities. So I feel the building blocks are here, and that's what gives me so much hope in Malaysia. The building blocks are here. We have highly educated people, English speaking generally, multilingual, all of these things, very good infrastructure, all of these things we sometimes take for granted. Not every other country has those. So imagine if we add the notion, let's say we talked about carbon literacy, which in my view needs to be, a basic course for every student that studies in Malaysia. I think, imagine if we do this, I think that will be quite revolutionary.
When I did my undergraduate in accounting, there is not even a we couldn't. It's not even in our thinking of having to be a carbon literate. This was 2004. Fast forward 20 years later to 2024, carbon literacy is a no-brainer to have inside the syllabus. How many of undergraduates taking up these subjects are putting it into their syllabus consciously?
So I believe that this is quite a new thing. While we all sort of understand that carbon literacy is important, I don't think it's yet an essential part.
Is it in your school, your business school?
Well, we are actually we are developing a course. We call it a carbon literacy course that we are going to run for all of our staff, students, and alumni. So this is what we are going to make available
and
to
your
all.
peers, I'm sure you speak to them a lot of the time.
Yes, there are other people who are thinking about it, and I think this is a non-competitive space because I think all of us need to come together and do it.
It's like mathematics.
Yeah. Yes.
You gotta...
So let's just do it. But again, you think about it. It's a simple idea. It does not require necessarily to buy new equipment, but it requires, for example, agreements on standards. You see, we have accounting standards.
Yes.
But we don't have, in my view, yet carbon accounting standards.
No.
And these are things we could be leaders at.
We don't have, but when I went to the Yayasan Hasanah event at KL event a few years ago, a few months ago, somebody pointed out at the conference saying that it took 200 years to get to a standardized accounting standard. 200 years.
Yes.
This started from the merchants in Portugal and insuring the people there, and then of course the insurance industry standardization, accounting standardization. He says that let's not kid ourselves, the green consciousness only came about only in the past few years. How can we then agree, okay, by 2023 or 2024, everybody can have the standardized green standard and khalas, everybody's done. You can't have that expectation. We must expect 10 to 20 years. But he does acknowledge that the urgency is there, the importance is there, and the consciousness of us getting that standard is there. So that is for the green standard. But what about these master plan, falling back to the master plans? I'm going to put you in a spot right now. Have you read the NETR or NIMP? Because I've only read the cliff notes, and I'm not reading the whole entire master plan. Have you gone through it? Did you see anything exciting about it? Where are the challenges that might lie in it, and so on?
So the short answer, can I respond to the first comment first, and I talk about whether I read the master plan or not. So I believe if it took us 200 years to reach this accounting standard, it should not, in my view, take us the same amount, because we've learned a lot. Now, there is a graph that I really like that shows, you know, from the invention of TV to everyone having a TV, it took us, I don't know, 100 years. Then you go to telephony, it took us 50 years. And then it gets to Google, it took us, I don't know, 1 year. And then Twitter gave us, I don't know, 6 months. And now ChatGPT within weeks, there was like millions of people using it. I really think we need to think in that way. We can't just use the past as, we can learn from the past, but we can't use it as an obstacle to stop us from doing what needs to be done. So this is first thing. Secondly, do you know that Malaysia actually is one of the few countries that started in that, and we have a sort of a standard that we put forward. So actually there are a handful of countries that attempted to put something, and there is something out there that is with Malaysia stamp on it. So I think we are in a way leading here, and this is an area, in my view, we need to really grab and run with. Now, going back to the master plans, yes, I read it, and I'm actually quite excited by the headline. I'm excited by the moonshot thinking and the mission-based thinking. I think that is very important. I'm excited by its cross-sector initiative, which is very different from what we used to have before, where education is alone and other ministries are doing their own thing. I'm excited by the fact that we are seeing sustainability as not a cost, but something that could help us build, the economy. Now, when I go down to the clusters and so on, I know for a fact not all of it will necessarily work, because that's the nature of the plans. You put things out there, and then you will see which one is going to work, and you double down. And that's why the implementation of this plan is actually almost, I dare say, more important than the plan itself. And we need to be willing and able to say not everything is going to happen. As you are implementing, a new technology will come around, and then something will happen. But the part that I'm feeling is missing is things around what I've mentioned to you, and they talk about skills and so on in its generality. But I think something like equipping every Malaysian graduate with carbon literacy capabilities, that is evolving. That course, imagine we have Mata Pelajaran Umum, MPU courses for all the students. They learn about history and culture and so on. And I think there's potential for us to make it a requirement for every Malaysian graduates to be carbon literate. And that course, we need to review it every year. So it evolves as we do this. I think that would, by 2030, we will be actually ahead of the rest of the world, and that would be something that we can do. And I don't think it's that difficult to deliver. It requires a will and resources, but it's much easier than bringing a very high-end R&D and bringing it to life.
A strategic intent that is simple might not necessarily be easy to do. I think people convolute the two together.
Of course.
And something that is complex can be easy to do. Yeah. Something complex can be, as long as everything can be done.
Well, complex is always easy to deliver. I could put a million things on the table and I say, this is my plan.
The problem is in the beauty of the simplicity.
Yes.
And getting it done was so hard. I mean, Google's front page is simple, but it was so hard to do. This idea of, say, creating green jobs, for instance, it's simple, you know. Let's have environmental conservation specialists or energy efficient engineers or renewable sector specialists. These are green jobs that, as I say it, of course we need that. Of course we need, you know, environmental conservation specialists and so on. To create that, however, is something else. To equip the talents to get to that stage is very, very, very difficult.
But Ibrahim, we need new thinking here, exactly there. You see, the moment we say you are an environmentally specialist engineer, I think we failed, in my view.
Okay.
I think everyone, whether you're doing history or geography or and especially accounting, architecture, engineering, this needs to be embedded within the capabilities that we are instilling in you. And I totally agree, you know, simple is never easy. It's actually very difficult. But we are talking about moonshots, and we are talking about something that potentially Malaysia can be the first country in the world to do. I think there's a freshness to this, and I think the resources to deliver this wouldn't be prohibitively expensive. That's what I'm trying to say. It requires that we all come together and agree. So imagine the next time, maybe before you invite me to speak, we agree the carbon is on who? And maybe instead of buying me coffee, you say, Mushtaq, I'll pay you for your carbon, or I'll absorb your carbon, or then I think it will change our behavior. It will change our language. And I think that is both education and leadership.
What about regulation and policy? Is it going to be something like, I hate to say it, but Singapore, where, you know, you have these regulations, you have penalties if you don't meet those regulations, and then people comply? Or are you going to have a Scandic model where, you know, people take it upon themselves? It is a cultural thing for you to be a little bit more conscious, and you can just self-regulate amongst the populace. Which one comes in?
I think both of them are needed, but definitely in the beginning you need the policy, you need the enforcement, and I think, again, I know that Bursa is having their standards. This is not something that we haven't done anything at. And we have seen in the past, you know, when we decide that we need something, we needed 30% women on the boards, we put that in, we give the companies sort of a timeline, and eventually it happened. You know, it happened this year. So I think I'm actually quite optimistic about all of that. Now, at the same time, particularly the new generation, they are more environmental sort of wary and also aware than the older generation. And I think this is the direction to go. Now, add to all of that, from a business point of view, when the convergence happen so that it makes a business sense. I think if I don't burn petrol, this will be, you know, money isn't in my pocket. So it will make sense from that point of view. So there's a cultural sort of imperative. There is a business imperative, and of course there is a policy and regulation and enforcement imperative, and all of them have to work together. And I think only then we can produce a model that actually the world would love to copy and emulate.
Let's talk about self-belief, which is, the way I see it, is a challenge for the country to overcome. You have folks that are optimistic, and there's a reason, there is a method behind your optimism. You have clearly outlined this with us for the past 10, 20, 15 minutes. The rest of the country might not necessarily be as optimistic as you. Where do you see a sense of belief instillment coming into the society? Is it from our political leaders? Is it from our business leaders? Is it folks like you, educators, folks like me? How do we ensure that this optimism can be permeated across the society?
Well, first of all, I feel that optimism, or real optimism, would come from a deep sense of purpose. I think the driving force behind us, ultimately, why you go out of bed and you come and speak, and it's purpose. And I think this is something that we need to, you know, to instill in our youth. And you know, I am you know, a huge advocate for even teaching purpose and preparing people.
No, go through it again, because there are many that just joined us for the first time today. I think Herod Watt's purpose mission is very, very critical to be discussed again.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Whenever there is change, you know, someone needs to drive it, and it starts, I believe, at a personal level. And the story I keep on telling, Ibrahim, is that when I go to an open day and I see students who just completed their SPM, and I ask them, how many of you are not sure what to do next? 90%, 95% sometimes of the hands go up. Now, why our youth are not sure what to do next? And this is, by the way, not just a Malaysian kind of thing. It's a global trend. So there is research now that shows that our young people really do not know what to do with their lives. They lack a clear sense of purpose. And that's why we decided at Heriot-Watt University that we educate professionals who are not only academically excellent, but they are fully aware of what is their purpose and what brings meaning to their life.
That's why that whole sense of purpose, as you train people to build their own purpose, you believe that that can solve that whole idea of self-belief, and they can go out and overcome challenges and deliver green job initiatives, green economy initiatives, and many more.
And even world peace, by the way.
Yeah.
So I believe that when we have that sense of purpose, now, of course, we need strong leadership. We need, you know, a leader that we can trust, a leader that is honest and clean and capable. And also we need educators who bring all of that to life. And we need to media leaders who bring attention to all of this. Of course, we need all of that. But I think ultimately, if you were to ask me, Mushtaq, say everything that you want with one word, that one word would be purpose. Because if we don't have, you see, if you don't have a sense of that we'll be here for the next 20 or 50 or 100 years, why would you want to fix the environment if we have no faith in our future? It's actually the fact, I think even those who are less optimistic, I think it's because they have faith in the future. So if I were to have a conversation with them, maybe I could help them find their own sense of purpose and then find a better way to produce an alternative. Because it's very easy for me to say, well, that would never work, that plan would never work. What is the alternative? I think it's about putting an alternative on the table and getting people to believe in that and to believe in themselves first. And I think you are right, you are on the dot. That self-belief and self-faith is so important for our success at an individual, family, society, country, region, and even eventually the world.
Final question, Prof. When we talk about influencing others, I believe that we need to help ourselves first, then we need to help our immediate family members, and then we need to help others around us, and then finally help people that might not necessarily know who we are, right, and affect change. Do you believe in this concentric circle kind of help, where you start with yourself, help yourself first, make sure that you can fix your own oxygen mask first before you can do other help with other people?
Absolutely. I think this is really the only way to effect change. I think without we changing ourselves first, the change will be always artificial. So the government could come and sort of, let's say, enforce, let's say, the traffic rules.
Yeah.
Then when there is a policeman who will behave in a certain way, you remove the policeman, you go back to... But if we do things because we believe in them, because we believe they're good for us, I think that's when genuine change will happen. And I think this is important for our health, for our mental health, for the world peace, for the growth. And I think at the end of the day, that's what education is all about, and that's what leadership is all about.
Final comment on the green economy as well as green job, Prof?
Well, I think this is the way to go. I believe let's start small while attracting big things. Let's start with the simple ideas. And I would advocate for the carbon literacy course to be a requirement for every government official, for every student, for every staff. And I also would like to advocate for an impact statement, finding purpose for every government official, for every staff, for every student. And I think when we do both of these things, some great stuff will happen.
Impact statements, of course, you can find out more about that conversation. Just search for Heriot-Watt on astro.com. We discuss at length in terms of how to find the meaning and the purpose of what you do, your intent. That is a conversation that needs to be had again and again, I believe so. Of course, carbon literacy is also something that we need to look at very, very closely. I would consider myself to be carbon illiterate. But I have the idea of what needs to be done in terms of trying to upskill myself in that form of literacy. So do check that out. We're going to be talking about carbon literacy across this channel in the many months to come as we discuss more about the NIMP as well as NETR. Also find out more about the past interviews on Heard What on astro.com. Just search for Heard What or HWM on astroawani.com. My name is Ibrahim Sani. Catch you in the next one.